Spontaneity Shop presents the Guilty Feminist 10 for 10 with me, Deborah Frances-White, and my very special guest, Desiree Burch. Desiree Burch, welcome to 10 for 10.
Thank you so much.
We are having 10 of our regulars and Guilty Feminist loved ones here in my home, on my sofa.
I think this is the biggest honor, actually. I've done enough to make it to the sofa.
To the sofa.
It's very nice in here for all of you who have fantasized about coming, and you will never be here. It's wonderful.
No, all come. But it's our 10th birthday, so we were thinking we'd interview one person per year we've been alive, and we want to ask you about how you are, how your feminism's been for the last 10 years, any of your guilty feminist memories, where do you think we are now and where we're going in feminism, comedy, everything.
Yes. Thank you for making me one of your 10. I'm honored.
Oh, I'm so thrilled that you could do it.
I'm really happy
thrilled
to be
that
here.
You could do it.
And happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
That's an
wild.
incredible amount of feminism and shows and people and cities and movements and causes and jokes and stories and group commiserations about things happening.
Well, there's a lot of that going on at the moment.
Oh, I'll bet. Sure. Yeah.
But also people coming out of the house now and actually wanting to do something and not just protest alone.
Sure. Yeah.
But to do other grassroots activities and, get involved and see what changes we can make, which is a really exciting way to start the next decade.
Yeah.
How are you?
I can never tell. I'm generally pretty all right. I always say about this time, because it has been generally, I don't want to sound dramatic by calling it a dark night of the soul, but everybody's got to go through one of those. And I think middle age is one of those prime times for it. Usually, there are external things that precipitate the sort of internal, it's that part where the caterpillar is just goo. It's no longer a caterpillar. It is not a butterfly. It is a bunch of green pus inside of a sack that is encoded with all the promise of becoming. And I can feel these shifts, but I don't necessarily feel like I'm fully operational with all of the new sort of programming yet. Yeah. And it's been interesting that sort of coincided with this time where a lot of things in our industry have started to kind of just sort of, deflate a bit. And things are shifting. People are trying to figure out, particularly comedians I know, it's like, is this what I want to continue doing? Am I going to retrain in cyber or whatever it is? You know what I mean? Like, it's something, but I just feel like, and also obviously as a perimenopausal woman, it does feel like part of the sort of witch initiation this time of just sort of question, everything is up for grabs. And, I think that when I moved here, which is now, it'll be 12 years in September, and I didn't realize that a lot of my life was taking its time catching up to me. Whereas now I feel like I was a lot better at compartmentalizing than I am now. And it's probably for the best that I'm no longer able to do that. I don't know. I think it's my life back in California, my life back in New York, and my life here have kind of smacked together in this way where I kind of have to deal with all of it. And also we live at like one of the most sort of consequential times in modern history where things are incredibly dark, but also changing radically. And so there's a lot of opportunity to, install the stuff that like the software that we want to be running that can be positive, because so many of the old institutions are now disintegrating.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a good time for this kind of retrospective and to start to kind of plant seeds for what we want, because otherwise it'll, it could just as easily be somebody trying to be their own Epstein. And that's not the world that we want to go into anymore. Clearly, it was the one that we were in, and we didn't understand how these forces were controlling every aspect,
I'm
at every level.
So mind bent over Epstein because they've released the files.
I mean, the first 2 Eiffel Towers of the total 4, apparently, right?
They've released some files, but apparently a very small percentage. But even with what we're seeing, even with what's not being redacted, I mean, God knows what else is there.
Yeah.
But then if nothing changes, if no one's arrested, if nothing happens, it will embolden that class. So as to say, well, look, even if the worst things one can imagine, and I won't state what they are, I'm sure
everyone's aware.
Everyone who wants to know by now can know, and I don't want to say triggering things, but some of the worst crimes against humanity, done seemingly for no purpose except the joy of cruelty.
I would say, and also that sort of mutually assured destruction of like, okay, well, we're all the biggest scumbags, but we can trust each other because we're all involved in the worst thing. And so we're all looking at each other like we all know we're all doing the worst thing. So as long none of us is going to rat on the other because it would be the worst thing. Yes. So now we can trust each other to do all of these sort of very, horrible authoritarian things behind the scenes because
I've got something on you and you've got something on me. So we all have to scratch each other's backs, and anyone who's in that club will be looked after.
Yeah.
But
and there's also a bunch of money that we have no tabs on. There's a bunch of even that little window into what Mandelson did is probably a tiny piece of a larger puzzle of like all of this money, all this insider information, all of this treason against these borders that we're meant to deify. Meanwhile, none of these capitalists care about that. They are just sort of starting up their own corporation nation states, underneath the guise of government or democracy or whatever they pretend to call it. It's like that's on top of the fact that it was so like it's just mind-boggling because it's kind of like part of the reason that it's coming to the fore is because there are women now who used to be children when they were horrifically abused because the seeds of this were planted with them as like the soil in some ways. Like that was and they've gotten to the stage in their lives where like probably a lot of them are around our age where that's the time where you start to for better or for worse, like either you are an actual parent or you are doing the reparenting on your own to be like, actually, I have to do something, even though I am scared. And in many cases, it might mean my demise, whether that comes by my own hands or by somebody else's who's intimidating, hunting me, whatever else. I have to do something because this will continue to brutalize children if nobody says anything. So it is incredible that people, these predominantly women, have come forward to say, like, this is what went down. We were scared out of our minds for very good reason because we were harassed and intimidated and told in no uncertain terms that we could be disappeared. There are plenty of other corners of the internet that might argue that some have been. And
definitely some have been.
Right.
There's all sorts of evidence that people have been killed, and you just go, of course. Some of them
all the worst things. So, like, if they didn't stop at what we know.
And there's survivors.
Yes.
And the survivors are now
have survived
speaking out and risking their lives doing it.
Yeah, which is an incredible, I don't know. It's just, it's something that's very buoying for the soul, even though they should never have been put in the position to do this. It is amazing to see that how many people individually pushed for that and then collectively came together to make that happen because some of these structures do need to be torn down, and they're being torn down predominantly by the hands of these women who pushed with the help of lawyers and all these other people who came. But like, they have been stopped so many times before, but like, obviously people keep talking about the trial that happened in 2006 or 5 or whatever it was, right? There were so many opportunities for people to do the right thing who were then got the phone call or whatever that's like, you're not doing that, right? So to push past all of that, to say like, the governments of the world might hunt me down in my house. I will say this, is, I don't know, one of the things that I feel like is a positive as we move forward, that people are willing to risk everything so that the world does not go back.
Yes.
And
the way I see people out there in putting their bodies in front of, between ICE and people ICE are targeting and literally dying.
Yeah.
Like, it's a terrible thing to watch. And also it feels like a seismic shift in resistance.
Yeah, I mean,
What a time to have perimenopause.
yeah, right in the middle of it. And what a time. Well, I mean, it to me, it makes sense given where we have been in the past generation. And so many of us, so much of humanity has been suffering and dying for nothing that people are like, why not die for something then?
Now, what I need to ask you
Please.
is I first saw you in Edinburgh
Ah,
and invited you on the show.
yes.
I think
Was
I
that
saw you
18, 17?
2016. So I met you in 2016. Now, my memory of meeting you is you were performing on the top deck of a bus,
Ah, yes, it was.
and I had to. The bus wasn't going anywhere. Just to be
Yes,
clear.
everybody's like, well, how do you do that? Well, it's like it wasn't moving; it was parked. It was a
parked bus, but it was if you've not been to the Edinburgh Fringe, everything becomes a venue. It could be a cupboard under the stairs, it could be a classroom or a shed that's
a container.
exact shipping container, a shed that's erected especially. And this is a parked bus. And you go upstairs and you all sit forward like you're in speed.
Yeah.
And Desiree faces you with the microphone, or whoever the comic is. And you did a hilarious stand-up show. And I was blown away by how funny you were. And then you came on The Guilty Feminist.
Yeah.
And you guested and you were truly hysterical. Do you remember coming on The Guilty Feminist?
I do remember that. I think it was over at Gilded Balloon,
That's
maybe
right.
in one of the rooms, and it was back when
nightclub.
Sophie was co-hosting
That's
with you
right.
in the nightclub. Yeah, I remember that. I was just like, it was very cool to be asked on this very important thing, and I was just like, oh, I gotta go.
It was very
do
new.
another set. Yeah, but but you would still like you build things well when you build them. So it definitely already had like a very huge following because you are already filling up the nightclub, and it was cool. I remember being in that little like underneath the balcony, sort of in the dark shadow, like waiting to go on. But I was like, okay, I think I could sit and watch it for a while, and then I was like, oh, let me come on and impress these feminists.
You were very impressive. Would you like to hear a clip from that show?
I mean, I suppose I'm going to have to one way or the other. So let's get involved.
Don't worry, you're very good.
Yes. Oh my God, thank you for making that last until I got all the way to the stage. I really appreciate that. It's rough. It was a long walk for me. I'm also not from here, as you guys can tell. British people are always so nice to me. They're like, are you Canadian? I'm like, no, I'm fat, loud, and opinionated. You know where I'm from. Yeah. So fuck around here. It's funny because I definitely relate to all the stuff that we've been talking about. Now, I've moved to London. Do you guys get down to London? Anybody from London? Anybody? Is somebody? Okay. Can I ask you guys? Are the rudest people on planet Earth walking the streets of London right now? Is that the way that shit works?
They're all like, yes.
I lived in New York for 15 years. I've never experienced the same rudeness that I experience in London on a regular basis. So here's what happens to me when I walk down the street. I'll be walking down the street being fairly fucking noticeable, as you guys can tell. And then there will always be some woman on the same plane as me, right? And she normally looks like this in comparison to me. I don't know if you can tell we're both black. I know it's hard to figure it out. But I'm the fat
comedy.
one, right? And so, here's what always happens. We do the dance, right? I move to the left, she moves to the left, and we keep going about our way, right? But what always happens to me is I move to the left and she moves not at all and does the right into me like I was gonna combust in a 20 stone worth of glitter for her. So she could just keep strutting down the catwalk.
Love distinctive laugh.
Mind, It's always like one of these like skinny bitches with the legs that don't touch. I know I can't say bitch, but I'm saying bitch. I feel like she's getting emotionally punched in the tit when I say
Is bitch feminist? No, gonna say it anyway. I feel like skinny feminists were mad at me for a good year after that.
That's no doubt true. That's no doubt true. No doubt
she
true.
is body shaming the thin.
You've never apologized. You've never shied away from kind of out there telling my truth as I feel it joke. And do you remember your first time in Feminist Butt?
No.
I'm a feminist, but I don't really care about Beyonce.
Oh, yeah. Then the rest of your fans were like, goodbye. That's so funny.
I'm supposed to. I know she's very cool. She's very cool.
She is.
I'm less cool. I totally get it. Like, she's changing everybody's minds, but like, yeah. And I'm allowed. I know I'm going to get like hate tweets. It was like, she's a queen bee. And like, I know she's totally a queen. She's royalty, but like, meh.
You were never worried about being popular with the
No, I
audience. You were
really
just
wasn't.
like, I'm going to throw it out
Can
there.
I lose more of you? Perfect. Let's go.
But I really enjoyed that about you. I found because it felt like you were kind of just telling the truth, which for a comedian to bear the soul, like I think the best comedians tell, like Phoebe Waller-Bridge is just like, the whole thing of Fleabag is, I'm going to tell you the worst things I think and feel.
Mm-hmm.
And people went, oh, I thought some of those too.
Good.
And so I think as much as you get that what from the audience, there are people in the audience
somebody
going,
said it.
Exactly. And they all kind of admire that you are speaking out in a way where you're just like, look, not all my thoughts are noble. I'm going to tell you the ignoble ones.
Yeah.
Although I think...
I would say many of them,
I
the
think
majority.
Beyonce may have lost some feminist fans along the way. But
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Well, I called it, friends.
She was a seer. You make very serious topics, very hilarious, very warm.
Good.
And your feminism does radiate from you. Like, these are some silly, superficial, I'm a feminist, but we're not called the Guilty Feminist for nothing, things.
Yeah.
But your real belief in the power of womanhood does radiate from you. Have you always identified as a feminist? Is this something you discovered along the way? Was it innate in you?
I do think it was sort of innate. I don't know that I think there was a point at which I learned the word feminist, and then I was like, oh, well, yeah, okay, it's cool. But like, that wasn't like the beginning of doing or believing. I think that I just never felt like I was less than until I was told I was supposed to feel that way. And I just resented that in every fiber of my being from the time that I was young, from the moment my own mother told me to, like, well, it's unladylike if you sit like that, or I'm like, well, I'm not a lady. Like, you know what I mean? Then I don't, I'm not sitting here in a corset on perched waiting to be married to some landed gentry. Like, I'm out here trying to be as fully human as I can. And to me, that necessitates feminism. Like, I feel like anything else is just a lie. And it's a lie that you're telling yourself to diminish yourself for the benefit of who? Mm-hmm. Do you know? Because everybody else is getting theirs. Mm. So I think it's, it starts as a sort of self-serving thing, but then you kind of look around and you're just sort of, smacked with like, this is wrong. And then it kind of sucks because the older you get, the more deeply entrenched you realize it all is. And that's when you start to lose. That's when the hope starts to flag. Yes. When you go, this has been going on for so long and it's so deep. And there are new people who are learning the same old shit that I thought we were over. Like, it's that, because it felt easier, or maybe it felt like more successful to be a feminist 15, 20 years ago, because it felt like we were still in the wave was still flowing, and like, it's definitely been ebbing, and that doesn't mean that it's not going to flow again, right? Because it's like, it's like, I don't know if it's a 2 steps forward, 1 step back, whatever it is, but it's like, we are demonstrably in a better position, as women, in the majority of ways, at least, than we would have been 100 to 200 years ago, in the majority of ways, I think. Oh, yes. Have you read Backlash by Susan Faludi? Not
it's
yet.
Amazing. But she says that the progress of feminism is more like a corkscrew than a ladder. So we go round and down and round and down. So overall, we are getting up. Yeah. But we go down again. And in my book, which you very kindly gave me a lovely quote for.
It's amazing.
I call it the Empire Strikes Back effect. That because of Me Too, because of women being out in the street, finding each other, finding connection, starting podcasts, being powerful together, finding their power, the patriarchy gets frightened and the Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, of course.
Can I ask, what are your memories of the Guilty Feminist? Do you have any standout memories of the Guilty Feminist?
I mean, that first one was memorable. I remember when we were at... was it the Palladium? That was the one that I came in on crutches,
yeah.
but I was like, I'm not going to miss the one at the Palladium.
That
My
was
God,
great.
that was incredible.
Such a good night.
And also just sort of being on tour in various places. I mean, I would say specifically, but you never remember where you are on tour. You're always like, wait, what is the theater and what's the city we're in tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. But those, like, I just feel like tour moments are always such fun because it's just like you just sort of turn up in a different town in a different room with the same people. And it's like, oh, we're going to do the same as last night, but like slightly different. And just, I don't know. I kind of love that the sort of theater bones in me loves that sort of like, we just entered the like stage door and we're learning like, you know, how this one works. And we're doing that sound check and we're ready to meet whoever this community is, you know, because I feel like we were in some lovely cities. I'm like, I don't know, they were sort of vaguely around the middle, like, you know, like Cambridge or, you know, Manchester or Birmingham, like somewhere around that middle bit. But it's nice. It's a nice way to meet different parts of the country, particularly because you're meeting the people who have self-selected as feminists who are really excited about getting
100%.
things.
I feel like the feminists in those different cities, there's a different quality. Like Glasgow always feels like a revolution of a show.
Yeah.
Newcastle feels like a riot.
Yeah.
Manchester feels like a festival.
Yeah.
Dublin feels like a rock concert, you know, and Plymouth feels like a hen night. And it's just, and I love all of them.
Yeah.
I love all of them. You know, wherever I go, I love Stratford upon Avon because there's always a sort of, same as I feel about Canberra in Australia, it's always like an audience of head girls. Yeah. And, you know, class, in Canberra, it's like class captains.
Is
that's
that
what it is in Australia?
okay.
School captains.
Yeah.
And I've asked in Canberra how many school captains in the audience, because they all go there to work in government. Sea of hands. Sea of hands.
Like, how could there
And
this
so
be?
therefore they're always a little quieter until I say, you know, Sydney was louder, and then they have to win because they're A plus students. So they're like, okay, we're not losing to Sydney, you know. So it's such a delight to go to these different places and feel the energies.
What is it like going back home? Like, I don't know at this point if you spent more of your life in the UK than you did in Australia, or what is it? But how is it when you take this on tour back home in Australia?
The greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
I really love the Australian shows. I used to tour a lot with Cal Wilson. She used to be my most common co-host, and she very sadly died.
Yeah.
And so the first tour back was so sad. Like I cried in every town that I had worked with Cal.
Yeah.
We started off in her hometown, Christchurch, where she was raised.
Wow.
We ended in Melbourne, where she had lived for most of her life. And so those were kind of these bookend, beautiful, beautiful shows that made me feel like I was like with her and that she was with me. But the beauty of going back home somewhere I was raised and having a connected community audience, amazing guests, amazing co-hosts. I just always feel so privileged to be able to do it. We only toured America once, and that was right before the pandemic hit.
Okay.
And so then we didn't go back to go back for a few years.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about going back to America and performing?
I mean, I'm trying to think of the last time I actually performed in America, because typically when I go, I'm going to see friends and family. And so I'm not trying to like work. Like that's the only holiday I'm getting. So everyone's like, oh, do you do gigs when you go back? I'm like, no, I'm on vacation, even though it's like, I am seeing my family in either LA or friends in New York. So I very well could, but I'm like, I'm not trying to do that. So the last time I performed was maybe 24. It was sort of the 20th year anniversary of the New York Neo-Futurists, which I had been a founding member of. So I hosted this sort of gala. And it was interesting because it was very, we're doing a fundraiser. We're doing a shortened version of the show, which is 30 plays in 60 minutes. So there are all these short plays, but it's like a curated version of that. And of course, all of the stuff is very pulled from the headlines, very present moment. So there was at least one or two plays, but one specifically that was very political, very much about what was happening in Gaza, even at that time. And even in that audience, there were people who, like most people, were sitting there watching it and appreciating it. And then somebody had to say something that was sort of pro-Israel because they were, and it was just like, okay, I understand that you have an opinion. For the context of this, go ahead and write a play where it's condensed get everybody else to approve that play, and then perform it, because that's what these people have done with their points of view on it, right? So I get that you're going to say something in protest, but ultimately you're not creating anything in this moment. You're not creating a conversation. You're just sort of like trying to tear into that. And I mean, this was in New York, in Joe's Pub, where people are going to do that kind of thing anyway and be a bit more outspoken potentially. But it was interesting to think about how, the construct of the fourth wall was so paper thin at that point. Again, it's quite a sort of audience participatory format, so people might feel that. But it was interesting to see that at a fundraiser for people who support the theater company and know what the company does and has done for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, Dadoy, you are going to have artists who are speaking out against genocide. Sorry, not sorry. And so, like, for you to expect it to have been free of politics was delusional, because what, like 50 weekends a year, this company is doing original plays that are pulled from the headlines. You were going to have something about this. If you disagree with it, that's okay. You can disagree with it. We're still at a performance.
Yeah, it's such a different landscape in America now. And is it somewhere where you would like to go back at some point, or is this your home now?
I mean, I go back to live. I don't know. I truly don't know. This is my home. When I think about coming home, I think about coming here.
Coming to London.
Coming to London, yes. Coming to your couch. I'm living here now, baby.
I would love that.
just waking up in the room. It's like, hi guys, good morning. We're out of milk. Bye. No, so I do think about coming back to London as being my home. The other side of that is that I'm from out in California. Whenever I'm out there, I miss the land. I don't miss as many of the people. I have some of the people that I absolutely love, and there's some wonderful Americans that exist out there. They really do. But and more, there's just a calcified that I don't love seeing. And there's just more and more people who are unhoused and worse off than the last time I saw them. Every time I come back, it does feel like running back into a burning building to go get the cat or go get save the family album or something. Every time I go back, it feels like this is getting much more precarious.
Wow.
At the same time, I look at the place I'm from and it's stunning and I want to be connected to it. But everything about the culture of it is not what I value.
Yes. I
not everything, but the dominant things about that culture are not what I value.
Well, in the UK, we're very thrilled you're here.
I'm very thrilled to be here.
That you call London home.
It is.
I often at this point ask comedians what their predictions for the future are, but we actually have a clip from 3 years ago about your hopes and fears for the future.
Oh, dear.
What's something from the last 7 years that's a feminist memory for you?
What I want to talk about, there's a thing that I could talk about. This isn't necessarily feminist directly, but I feel like all of these movements are bleeding into one, which is what I think needs to happen.
Yes.
Yes. And so I feel like as horrific as 2020 and everything that it begat was, one of the things that is happening now, like everybody in America is talking about quiet quitting, which is literally just doing the bare minimum of your job, which is what we all should have been doing because none of us was getting paid enough to do as much shit as we were doing, invisible labor included. And so, yes. And so what I love is that people are like, actually, I'm not putting on anything with a zipper and buttons anymore. I'm going to wear sweats 1 day a week to your establishment. And I will do the rest of the work in my pajamas at home. And I will clock out at 5 o'clock on the dot, because we can't just sort of be operating on a policy of extraction. It's gone on for too many centuries, and it's time that you get only what you pay for.
And I would say that's true unless you're in the top tax bracket, but the top tax bracket is now no tax.
Oh my God, it's astounding to me.
It's the wrong way around.
It's just larceny.
Specifically for them, but what I love is that all of us are getting madder.
Yeah.
And you only stop digging, you only hit rock bottom when you stop digging, right?
Yeah.
And we're getting to the place where everybody is kind of going, this is insane, right? And I feel like we're only a couple years off from eating the rich.
Yes.
That's so funny.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, I mean, I guess maybe my timeline was shortened, but I think we're still on track to eat the rich.
What are your hopes for the next 10 years of feminism?
What are my hopes?
Hopes and dreams time.
My hopes and dreams.
Positive hopes and dreams.
Yeah, I think my hopes and dreams for the next 10 years of feminism are maybe what I would love is to see a bit more. Generally, what I would love is to see better education. That sounds like so grossly vague, but I just feel like most of us grow up in a system where our education is sort of state propaganda for us to like function to serve people who have been robbing us for generations. And I think that right now, hopefully we can hold on to the disgust that we have in the people and institutions that have supported psychopathy. And that we can say that basically anything to do with that is tainted, because I feel like a lot of capitalist patriarchy is built on that kind of abuse and just, torture and murder and all of the worst possible things. I feel that feminism in the next 10 years has a wonderful opportunity to illustrate alternatives to how to live. And I guess I would want to see a bit more sort of like alternative communities, because I think things might go sort of micro community, like, again, sort of like pulling back from the globalization to kind of find some medium where it's like, okay, well, we're going to form our own communities where these are our rules. And that seems quite dangerous and on unsolid, ground. But I think that what it provides us is the opportunity to create communities, to create work structures that are a bit more in honor of who and what we are as beings, like what our bodies create, what our souls are here to do, what that aren't just like crunch yourself down, give our shareholders the most money, and when you're done, die before we have to give you any retirement.
Absolutely.
Like, there are different ways to structure communities. There are different ways to structure businesses. There's states, all of it. And I think that hopefully feminism can start to illustrate what some of those alternatives are so that people can see the wisdom in them. Because I think that the proof of the pudding's in the eating, in terms of like how successful feminism is as a belief system is how successful it is implemented in all of the structures that we have, or different structures that we don't know we need yet.
Absolutely.
Because I think it can encompass a lot of other movements for progress. It can be connected to people who have been fighting against various different forms of oppression, and that we can build better societies so that we don't think that there's no other way it can work.
So you're basically pitching the commune.
A bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been talking about commune for years, that at some point we'll have to buy a big block of land and just go and grow our own vegetables on it and make our own entertainment.
But there's plenty of people who would love that, like at this stage, I think there are most people would love to have neighbors that they know and can connect to. I mean, we all do want our own little bit of privacy or whatever, but I mean, like, insofar as much as that's like, hey, I'm an introvert, I need to go read a book. Like, I don't need to be isolated and like see 3 people over the course of a year just because I'm so busy looking at an app, like I'm looking at a screen that like is just draining my energy and making me hate my life. Whereas anytime I just stop doing that and talk to a friend, I feel 8,000 times better.
Yes.
So and every time I do it, I go, how do I keep forgetting that this makes me feel good? And like, I keep getting lost and siphoned off into some other individual little pocket when what I want is to connect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The only way I've been able to cope with the Epstein files is I've got a few girlfriends who are as obsessed with it as I am, and like blown away by, well, is this how we live now? Knowing that they can do all of that and just get away with it, even though their names are out there.
Yeah.
Is to just phone people up like it's the 90s, like old days. That's like getting into texting, and then I just like call them and go,
and then
we need to talk about this. They're
hello?
like, huh?
What's happening?
But yeah, I've had a few people call me lately as well and just be like, sorry, I'm just calling because I just want to talk about it. And that, the endless screens are doing us in. And do you have any survival thrive techniques for feminism and also just being human, being a human being, being an artist?
Sure. So, I mean, I guess I'll speak really immediately. The thing that's I've just recently, even though I've been meditating since 2020, which I started in the lockdown, and thank God, it's been very helpful. I've recently started doing a breath work, which I know sounds wanky, but it's actually very transformative because I've realized that there's a lot of, especially in meditation, my monkey mind is doing a lot of crazy stuff. With that, it definitely cuts right into just sort of regulating my nervous system in a way that I didn't realize has been so, like, when you start to feel some relief, you realize how ratcheted up things have been, even still, because
100%.
of all of the, I've done a lot of like, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to go to this retreat. I'm going to do this psychedelic. I'm going to and all of that stuff has helped, but there's still a strong, like a stranglehold that my sort of like really frightened ego has been able to maintain, that like sometimes you have to find a way to just get past it. And that just even literally 10 minutes in the morning of some pranayama breathing that some lady on Insight Timer is telling me exactly how to do, which seems so basic, like, in a matter of 48 hours, I was like, oh, I feel that that's made a difference. Like, that's really powerful in a way that I hadn't anticipated, which is good, because if it has to get through this, then my mind has ways of just converting it back into the same narrative.
It makes sense because the breath is literally what keeps us alive. So it's connecting to your life force.
Yeah.
So it absolutely makes sense that the breath is where it starts. I've been doing a lot of yoga in 2026. And if you do it every day, the more you do it, the more you connect with the breath, and then the easier it is. Because I always find in yoga, it's hard when they're going, breathe in and breathe out. I'm like, oh, it's another thing to think about. But the more you do it, the more the breath starts to talk to you, and it becomes automatic. And it does change everything. Exercise, breathing, taking that quiet time. I've started using this app that, because I've got the ADHD brain, that plays this, I don't know, some kind of frequencies that help.
Is it like a binaural beats type of thing or something?
Yeah, and I never thought I would like that because it makes me think of like massage, spas sort of thing. But actually, because it does a timer, it'll go 1 hour of deep focus, and it just it's like a slight weird thing where I just go, I'm deep focusing now. I'm writing for an hour.
I can do it for an hour.
And in an hour, it breaks, and then, I might check my phone, go and make a cup of tea or something. But I found that if I want to think about what I've been writing, if I put on the brain massage one for 10 minutes, instead of going straight into scrolling through the worst news in the world and, 2 war crimes sandwiched by a kitten, that terrible, machine that we've all got now.
Yeah.
You kind of go, oh, now my brain's allowing itself to cogitate on it. Now, I don't know how much research they do. I don't know how they know which one is deep focus, which one's sleep, and which one's brain massage or whatever.
Yeah, right.
But maybe it's a placebo, but it's working for me.
Well, sometimes the sugar pill is highly effective. If your mind believes in it, then it's I'm
think now taking cortisol cortisol control drops as well under my tongue. And again, I don't know, maybe it's a placebo.
Yeah.
But it feels like taking magnesium before bed gives me a better sleep. And even if that's just the story I'm telling, and my brain goes, good sleep now.
Yeah.
What does it matter?
Well, so it's not like your body doesn't need magnesium. It's not like your body doesn't want to get rid of some of this cortisol, because it's not like you're going to go out and slay a lion with that or something. Do you know what I mean?
My lion slaying days are over, sadly.
Yes.
Happily, I would not want to slaughter a lion.
Or whatever it was we used to slaughter when we needed to eat something.
Exactly.
You know?
Or protecting ourselves.
You're going to slaughter that trout.
Protecting myself from prey and trying to stay alive, this excess cortisol is needed for. So to finish, Desiree, can I ask you, I have seen some brilliant shows of yours. You are currently on tour.
Yeah.
Can you tell us, how has your comedy evolved since that first show I saw you do up on the bus, and even the one before that won the Funny Woman Award and won a Fringe First? What's this show about? What can we expect to see?
So this show is called The Golden Wrath. It is about this time in our lives, this middle-aged perimenopausal time. I sound so like, dreary when I describe it that way. It's sort of me being like, hey, nobody told me this, so I'm going to tell you. Like, I feel like the older sister who like tells you the right way to like smoke a joint or like how to give a hand job or something, where it's like, whatever it is, like where it's like, no one else is going to tell you this shit. Okay. I'm the one, you like, if you're taking chemistry, you want to get the easy teacher. This is the one you want to get. Don't do any of that stuff. But I feel like that so much with having had a particularly rough 2 years with perimenopause. Some people were like, oh, it's fine. Some people are like, my life's fucked. I was in the latter category. So I'm like, I'm going to talk about it, particularly because I feel like it is such a amazing initiation into this like second part of our lives, this sort of like this sort of witch crone, like, I mean, I hate to use the word master, but there's some kind of other like, expert in what it means to be in this kind of body. And also now that this body is changing, what is it that still remains that I'm here to do? And what are my powers of creation that are just not only in my soul, but like located in this body. I'm saying a lot of that. It's a lot of jokes about my vagina. But, and also, about sort of, I bring my mom into it a little bit because, we've sort of circled that dance of like, she had me when she was 39. She was diagnosed with dementia when I was 39, and it was still connected to this menopausal time. And so, it was me kind of like taking that baton without realizing the weight of it and everything that kind of came with it, and sort of taking that baton of reparenting as well as like sort of finishing off the, appreciating the fact that when she was going through menopause, it was barely talked about at all. Certainly not in public. And it's wonderful that I live in a day and age where I can stand on stage and speak to 100, 200, however many people who have showed up about this very thing, and have people of all genders get something out of it. You go like, that was really funny, or I didn't realize that. I mean, the number of like cisgendered men who are like, holy shit, like I didn't know any of that happened.
Wow.
And I'm like, thank you for letting me know. I mean, we're doing a poor job educating, but hopefully that means that there's room to improve, because everyone will be affected by half the population going through something that's like, someone asked today, it's like, oh, this is affecting my relationship. Of course, like this is a new era for your relationship to be in. If your partner doesn't want to hear about it, he is on a sure shot course for divorce, because like at some point you are going to get tired. You're going to realize that you're going through all of this alone. So why is he here?
Yeah.
Right. If he's not going to actively be like, well, what's going on? Or, oh, okay, I understand where you are, or, whatever else, like, and not get like, ew, icky, weird. I'm like, are you 4? Like, what are we doing? You're a grown person. You wanted to be with a woman. You were happy to make the babies, and now you're just like, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
It's super weird. So I'm pleased with the different kinds of people who are showing up, who are like, I learned a lot and I laughed a lot. And I feel like knowing this might make me a better participant in my workplace or my community or whatever, just to acknowledge that people are working with different stuff.
Well, I cannot wait to see it. And if we want tickets, do we go to DesireeBurch.com?
Yes.
DesireeBurch.com. Find the closest town or city to you and come along. When's it on in London?
Oh, man, I hope it's going to be on in London again. It was on in London in November. We've passed it.
But hopefully it'll come back.
Hopefully, yeah. I would like to record it. So I'm looking for a venue so I can do a recording
Watch
of it.
this space, and I will definitely come along to
Yes,
that.
I will definitely be asking everyone I know with a face and a voice box to be there.
Excellent. Go and see The Golden Wrath. You will learn a lot. You will laugh a lot. Desiree Burch, it has been wonderful to know you for the best part of 10 years, and I'm looking forward to the next 10.
Likewise, you're so inspiring. Thank you
See you
for
on the
having me.
commune.
Oh, yes. I'll be there with my hoe.
Hoes welcome on the
yes,
commune.
hoes welcome. That's the new t-shirt. Hoes
That's
welcome.
the slogan. Hoes welcome. You have been listening to The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, and my very special guest, Desiree Burch. The Guilty Feminist theme tune was composed by Mark Hodge. The producers for The Spontaneity Shop were Ned Sedgwick and Tom Solinsky. Thanks to Gina DCO, Zainab Mohammed, and all of you for listening. For more information about this and other episodes, visit guiltyfeminist.com.